r/ask Reddit. What's something that's immoral but surprisingly not illegal? Taking everyone's social security and identity information without their consent, and then accidentally having it stolen. Taking everyone's social security and identity information without their consent, and then accidentally having it stolen, then charging the same people for protection. Why would you charge people for their own privacy? I would consider that a basic human right. This is ducked. A lot of seniors' homes demand that seniors get their meds in little packets separated by day. They'll even try to give it to any seniors who come in. Problem is, they're charging you the individual price per pill, plus a packaging fee. So my mom was taking pills that were $50 for $50 or $1 each, but in the packs, it was $3 to $4 each plus the packaging fees. So where her pills should have cost about $50 a month, she was paying easily $250. It should be illegal to take advantage of old people like that just for a few bucks. In the UK, a lot of care firms also request this, but the pharmacy do it for free for you. My grandparents all had them. In the US, sick people equals profit. In some states, a rapist can be awarded parental rights by a judge. Really? That's just plain ducked. Even worse, in most states the rapist can get child support from the victim. Legally enforced geographical monopolies. I'm looking at you, internet service providers. That happens a lot with alcohol sales too. In my state, big box retailers and grocery stores have been trying to pass a law so that they're allowed to sell wine, liquor, and full-strength beer. Currently they can only sell beer that's 2% alcohol. Most beers are 5% or higher, but they've failed several years in a row. So if you want wine, liquor, or good beer, you have to go to a liquor store. That's how it is here. There's always a liquor store in the same parking lot as grocery stores. Congress being immune to insider trading laws. Aren't they also immune from some of the laws they pass? Yes, they also don't have the same healthcare as the rest of the country. Grooming your parents late in life in order to become the executor of their estate. Looking at you, sis. Where were you the past 30 years? Nowhere until the promise of money arose. Tell your sis that the extra cut of the estate isn't worth dealing with the family after your parents die. Believe me, I'm never talking to my siblings again after that shit. Duck all of those greedy dunts. Sounds like when my grandmother died, everyone started fighting because 2 of the kids had the will change before she died, making it not equal at all. At least with my parents, I'm the executor and both of my older brothers are totally fine with it. They know I'll be fair. In New York State, it's not illegal for a police officer to have sex with a suspect after they have been put in custody. This seems like one of those laws when brought to attention would make sensible lawmakers go, you know, we have been naive because we didn't even think about this being an issue. There was a shitbag who ran a prison and siphoned $750,000 away from food to feed inmates. Apparently he can't be charged because what he did wasn't illegal, just immoral as duck. When reported on and confronted, he defended himself, saying that the liberal media has begun attacking me for following the letter of the law. https://www.bsnews.com News. Alabama sheriff legally pocketed $750K from inmate food funds bought beach house. Stealing from someone else's shopping trolley basket before checkout. Black Friday, someone stole my Dunkin' coffee maker out of my cart. Go in groups of 2. One person to seek out items and bring them back. Another to guard a cart and punch people in the face. I worked in timeshare for a while. Completely not moral, but using just the specifically right words to not be illegal. Same thing with pyramid schemes disguised as multi-level marketing. I live in Utah, MLM capital of the US. So you just described one stroke to my FB newsfeed. Lending money to people who almost certainly won't be able to pay it back, then packaging those high-risk loans into investment products and selling them as low-risk investments. Sounds like 2008. Civil asset forfeiture. Police can seize your property on the basis that they believe it was involved in a crime. Problem is, the burden is on you to prove that it wasn't, rather than them to prove that it was, with the lengthy and expensive legal process that you have to go through to get your stuff back. Many opt to just take the loss. Conveniently, cash and other assets they take can go into the police budget. No way that can possibly be abused, right? Naturally, this has led to corrupt police abusing the power to seize people's property under ridiculous claims and circumstances. Iowa Supreme ruled this illegal, violates the 5th Amendment, like, last Monday I think. Hadn't heard about this. That's great news. Hopefully we see the rest of the country follow. Care homes, nursing homes charging residents multiple times the retail cost of the things they provide. Things like 500% minus 100% markups on retail, which they don't pay for things like toothbrushes, toilet paper, tissues and toothpaste. The people running the companies are gonna get a rude shock one day when they wake up in hell. Jimmy McGill. B64. As in to be 64 again. Police misrepresenting the law, like saying something is illegal when it isn't. Not illegal. Cops can lie to people all day long. Not illegal. A cop actually wrote a friend of mine a ticket for some sort of disruption of flow of traffic ticket for goofing around on a sidewalk during a fresh week thing at school, with a fine of $400. Guy eventually goes to the court date to contest it, and the code and ticket reason and everything was made up. He just put in some pretend infraction code and made up the amount. Had my friend opted to just pay the ticket online, he'd have been paying a completely fictional fine. When it was suggested to the judge that the cop should get in trouble for literally making up laws and fining people, he just waved it off and said they're allowed to do that. What is the point of making up fines? It is not like the cop gets the money. Bringing your Beats dildo shaped stereo on the bus and blasting mumble rap, ducking dunce. Edit. Seeing a lot of people saying fight fire with fire or it's okay as long as it's music I like. No, you're wrong and you're part of the problem. Then acting like an a-hole when someone asks you to turn it off. I asked some kids on the back of my bus to please turn it off or put in headphones. I'm pretty sure they still hate me lol. Buying the patent to a medicine and jacking the price up 1000%. If you have millions of dollars you're free to do a lot of immoral things. When a parent gambles away the weekly paycheck at the casino even as the family bills go unpaid at home. Is there any industry misrepresented by its ad campaigns more than casinos? If you went by the commercials or how they are portrayed in movies, you'd think inside everyone is a bunch of lively, happy people partying and winning big, going crazy. You go inside anyone and it's mostly elderly people smoking cigarettes in a very noisy building and wasting every dime they have on slot machines. It's really fascinating. If you watch people play table games, about 20% are happy and socializing with each other. The majority appear unhappy. Slot machine players appear miserable. Even when they win, they seldom smile. They just keep pulling the lever like sad robots. Not vaccinating your children. That those commercials on TV promoting that they can get you in touch with the best rehab facility for your needs are actually allowed to air, making these false promises, when in reality one of the top drug czars in America couldn't find a functional or effective rehab facility for his own son when his son developed a heroin addiction, and despite extensive looking and many tries, his son ultimately died of an overdose. Many rehab facilities in this country aren't even regulated by anyone, and some don't even require a registration or certificate to open and operate. $14,000 for a duck in detox? Listen, if you can come up with 14 grand, you don't even have a problem yet. Sam Kinison. The podcast Reply All just did a great episode on this. Number 121 pain funnel. The whole system is so much worse than can be described in a Reddit comment. In Sweden, sex with animals. Also in Finland, high five after you've washed your hands. If your employer requires you to travel outside your normal scheduled work time, they don't have to pay you for it. Have to be at a meeting in a town 2 hours away at 8 AM. They just extended your commute by 4 hours, but they don't have to pay you extra. They can also book you a flight at an airport 2 hours away after work on Monday, have you arrive at the destination after 2 layovers at 6 AM, and still require you to report to the worksite at 8 AM, and they don't have to pay you for a minute of that travel time. Edit. Legal in the US. I'm glad my job has this in their policy. If they require you to extend normal travel, you are compensated for such. So if you fly for business and your plane gets delayed, you not only get paid for the flight, but also the time you spent at the airport waiting for it and such. But it's not required. US employers just sound like total dongs. Not calling 911 when someone near you is in danger or dying. There were a group of teenage boys who watched a man drown near where I live. They laughed at him as he was pleading for help. No charges were brought against them because technically they didn't commit a crime. Isn't that a crime in a lot of other countries? In many states there are virtually no laws regulating guardianship for the elderly and mentally ill. Courts will of course prioritize family members for guardianship, but in cases where there isn't a family member willing or able to take that on, there is a cottage industry of opportunists who lobby to manage individuals' finances and healthcare when they are old and infirm. They either pay themselves directly out of their ward's bank accounts or bill exorbitant fees to their insurance. John Oliver also did a segment on this. Creating addiction-inducing nutritionless snack foods, putting them in colorful packages with lovable cartoon characters, making them cheaper than healthy foods, and marketing them directly to children who then grow up into adults and keep the cycle of obesity going indefinitely. True, though I would argue the real culprit is a federal farm bill that subsidizes the hell out of the factory farm system to produce some of our most unhealthy foods. That said, the government wouldn't do this without massive food industry lobbying. Stealing from your young children. A friend of mine received a large sum of money from insurance after his dad died, but his mom used all of it on bills and video game systems because she and her new husband were too lazy to get jobs. By the time he turned 18 there wasn't anything left. When my mother died she set up carefully guarded trusts. My father still found a way to empty mine and my brother's trusts that were meant to pay for our post-secondary educations. Shitbags come in all sizes and grief makes people do horrible things. Multi-level marketing. Abandoning your family when dad is just going out to pick up some smokes and it becomes a lifelong trip to the store. It's a dong move, but not illegal. It kinda is if you're not paying child support, no? Rape by deception in several states. Just Roe. This guy, on the 30th of March, 1984, Daniel Caton Borrow called a Holiday Inn in South San Francisco. Mariana DeBella was a hotel clerk who answered the phone that morning. Borrow told DeBella that he was Dr. Stevens and that he worked at Peninsula Hospital. Borrow, pretending to be Dr. Stevens, said that he had the results of her blood test and that she had contracted a dangerous, extremely infectious and possibly deadly disease from using public toilets. Borrow went on to tell her that she could be sued for spreading the disease and that she had only two options for treatment. The first option he told her about was an extremely painful surgical procedure, which he described in graphic and gory detail. That would cost $9,000 and require a 6-week hospital stay that would not be covered by insurance. The second option, Borrow said, was to have sexual intercourse with an anonymous donor who would administer a vaccine through sexual intercourse with her. The clerk agreed to the sexual intercourse and arranged to pay $1,000 for it, believing it was the only choice she had. The second option, Borrow said, was to have sexual intercourse with an anonymous donor who would administer a vaccine through sexual intercourse with her. What? How does one even think that's supposed to work? Civil forfeiture in the US. It's essentially police stealing your money and then giving it back when you can prove you got it legally. It's like the exact opposite of due process and involuntary search and seizures protected by the Fourth Amendment. Note, they don't always give it back anyways. People not spaying neutering their pets, letting them wander around outside, breeding indiscriminately, and thus contributing to the millions of healthy, sociable, adoptable domesticated companion animals euthanized each year for lack of homes, space, supplies, and funds in the United States alone. Letting your children be little shits to others in public spaces. Cops lying to you. You can't lie to them though. That's illegal. Police in the UK are not allowed to lie to a suspect or present them with false evidence to obtain a confession. In America, a rapist can pursue their underage rape victim for child support for a child conceived from the rape that they didn't know they had. This has happened more than once. Sneaking terms into a business contract that say you preemptively waive your legal rights as a condition of doing business with them, otherwise known as a binding arbitration agreement. People who exploit people through religion. I'm talking about the pastors or priests with multi-million-dollar homes, and even in many cases personal jets. In certain parts of educated India, the rapist, if caught, is given an ultimatum that no charges will be pressed against him if he agrees to marry the girl victim. The thought process behind this is, the girl is a rape victim, so will be difficult to find a groom for her. Best way to save her honor is if the same man, i.e. the rapist, marries her. I know this is beyond ducked up, but for some sections of the society, even today this is considered wise and just towards the girl. No one ever asks or thinks about what the girl will have to endure being married to the person who raped her. Shame. Forcing customers or employees to use binding arbitration instead of having the right to sue. My wife's former employer tried this on her. Problem was, they violated the law. Misdemeanors and felonies do not get settled in arbitration. Of course they tried, but a sternly worded letter did the trick, along with the full text of the statute. Close the letter with, govern yourself accordingly. Yep, duck them. She got paid. Advertising junk food to children. As a parent, I'd say advertising to children in general should be banned. My kids are absolutely convinced that they will die if they don't get the latest piece of plastic they saw on TV doing all kinds of things it doesn't actually do. In America, adults marrying children. In some states what is clearly statutory rape is absolutely legal if you impregnate the girl and marry her, with no parental or judicial controls. Shout out to Delaware for being the first state to outright ban child marriage, in 2018. Eminent domain. At least without follow through for the reason behind the government expropriating private property. If the government takes your land, and does not use for a certain amount of time, that land should revert back to the original owner, or the family of the original owner. Such horse shit. My grandfather had a small patch of land in my hometown that sits right on a state route. He had a small softball field, and a restaurant which was popular back in the 70s. The government came in, gave him a take it, or leave it, but it's going to be ours anyway deal for pennies on the dollar so they could build an interstate through the land. And just like that, he was not only out of the land, but also a livelihood, having a wife, 4 kids, and a mortgage. 43 years later, the interstate that was supposed to be built from about 40 miles away has only been built out maybe 2 miles. Only 38 miles to go until they reach the land they seized, which means they should get the construction crews there just before the turn of the next millennium at the rate they're going. Hell, the highway didn't even begin production until the mid-2000s, and hasn't been touched since the small 2-mile stretch was completed like a decade ago. Many contracts that trick people into paying a lot of money. Pregnant women selling positive pregnancy tests online, Craigslist, FB, etc. to non-pregnant women who want to trap a significant other in a shitty relationship. Edit, missed an open parentheses. Apparently, in the state of Florida, you can get high and videotape a drowning man and not go to jail. Corporate lobbying. Charging ridiculous amounts of money for access to the president. Refusing to hold a hearing for a Supreme Court nominee. In most states, if a burglar is injured while robbing your house, they can sue you for damages. Whoa, you made it to the end? You're a ducking beast. I'll cut you a deal. Smash like and subscribe for more curated content, bruh. It's free and that's a great price.